Hello, future rockets. Today's presentation is for incoming medical students on medical school financial aid. My name is Mara Connor, and I'm the Assistant Director of Student Financial Aid and Graduate Professional Programs for the University of Toledo's Office of Student Financial Aid. On today's agenda, we will be talking about how to fund your medical education, different federal loans, repayment assistance and forgiveness programs, managing debt, scholarships, in-state residency, financial literacy resources, and I even give you a to-do list, a timeline to prepare for your first year here at UToledo. There are 3 ways you can fund your medical education. The first and most common is using the FAFSA, or the free application for federal student aid. There's also scholarships, or free money, which is my favorite kind of money. Lastly, there are different repayment assistance programs, such as working for the military or something through NIH or even the National Health Service Corps. Your medical school financial aid will look very different compared to your undergraduate financial aid. First, you're going to be considered an independent student in which parental information is not required on the FAFSA. Parent Plus loans are also no longer available. However, Graduate Plus loans are now available, but to the student only. State and federal grants are no longer available as well. Subsidized loans are entwined with that as well. Unfortunately, as a graduate medical student, only unsubsidized and Graduate Plus loans are available to you now going forward. There are 2 types of loans for medical students. First, there's the unsubsidized loan, which is not credit-based, and you can receive it simply by applying and filling out the FAFSA. You're awarded $20,500 for the aid year and an additional $20,000 to $26,667 per year. That additional amount is determined based on what year in med school you are in. It currently has an interest rate of 8.08% and an origination fee of 1.057%. For those who do not know, an origination fee is a fee that is sent back to the Department of Education for servicing the loan. So for example, the $20,500 you're originally offered, if you accepted all of it, 1.057% of that would not be applied towards your bill and would instead be sent back to the Department of Ed, again for servicing the loan. The other type of loan is the Graduate Plus loan. Now this loan is credit-based. Now, you can also get an endorser if you are denied, but you can apply for it through studentaid.gov. Overall, all of your loans and scholarships cannot exceed your cost of attendance, which I'll touch on in a bit. Currently has an interest rate of 9.08% and origination fee of 4.228%. Interest rates will update after July 1st. Typically, we find out what those new interest rates will be sometime in June. To give you a little bit more of an overview on all the different origination fees and interest rates, I've included these charts. You can see on the left-hand side the interest rates for each type of loan. And on the right-hand side, you will see all of the different origination fees. Please note that this is determined based on when the loans are borrowed and dispersed. Now, I mentioned that the cost of attendance is something that you cannot borrow past. What this means is that this is going to be considered the maximum amount of total financial aid you can have that can cover both your education, like your bill, but also your indirect costs such as your living expenses, housing and food, transportation, and even books and supplies. I've included an image of the 2025-26 cost of attendance. For M1, you can see that the total direct cost for fall 25 is estimated to be $20,504.40. You can also see there's an indirect cost of $14,201. This essentially indicates that we are estimating that you will have about $14,000 or so during fall semester of cost of living expenses. So for an in-state student, the fall cost of attendance in this case would be $34,705 just for fall semester. Then the tuition surcharge if you are considered to be an out-of-state student, and then that will bring up your overall fall cost of attendance to be $52,620. This seems like a lot, and it is. The good news is, though, is that we do have ways to attack these loans once you hit graduation. I will be here every step of the way and provide you lots and lots of resources to not only just borrow what you need, but also how to pay back these loans or pursue public service loan forgiveness, which again, I'll touch on in a bit. It's important to know that health insurance is not included in your budget for both your M1 and M2 year. If you do end up paying for our health insurance, or maybe you pay out of pocket for private health insurance, let us know, and we can always make adjustments to your cost of attendance to account for that. These are estimated, though, until the Board of Trustees meet in June to make their final decisions on the official cost, so these are subject to change. Now, I find it to be really helpful if we can see an example of a possible award package for a student. In this case, this M1 is fall spring and considered to be an in-state student and has no scholarships. They're going to be offered in total $20,500 in the unsubsidized loan. As an M1, they'll get an additional $20,000 because they're a medical student. Then, because their total cost of attendance will be $68,352, the maximum graduate plus loan they will be able to utilize is $27,852.80. It's important to note again that these are only estimates. Pretty close, but they're not exact. This at least gives you some sort of idea on what to expect. Here's an example of an out-of-state student who is an M1, so they are attending fall spring as well. They have the same unsubsidized loan availability with $20,500 and then another additional $20,000. The difference is, though, is that they have much more Grad Plus loan availability because they are adding in the out-of-state surcharge. Their overall cost of attendance is estimated to be $104,181. Again, you do not have to take all of your loan money out. That is not required, and I'm going to encourage you not to. These are simply the maximum. Next, I kind of want to talk about the cost of a graduate loan. I think it's important to understand how much a graduate loan costs not only in the short term, but also the long term. And I don't share these numbers to scare you by any means, but it is important for you to have a realistic idea on what to expect. For the unsubsidized loan, we have to recall that they have a 1.057% origination fee. So that means about $217 will be sent back to the Department of Education and not actually applied towards your bill. Then let's assume we're still at an 8.08% interest rate. With that being said, on a $20,500 loan, about a little over $1,600 of interest will accrue every single year, and that's $138 of interest every month. The Graduate Plus loan, for example, though, I also compared with the $20,500 in order to compare apples to apples. With its 4.228% origination fee, $867 will be sent back to the Department of Education for servicing the loan. Then, at a 9.08% interest rate, that means a little over $1,800 of interest will accrue every year. And that's about $155 a month in interest. This is really important to note because if you have any additional money available, you can pay towards your loans over time while you are in school. Again, you are also not required to take the maximum amount of loans. It's called the maximum for a reason, and I will always encourage you to only borrow what you need. Something else that is important to be aware of is you do have a lifetime loan limit as a medical student. To be exact, you have a $224,000 lifetime loan limit. And this only includes subsidized and unsubsidized that have been accrued in both undergraduate and your graduate professional career. There is currently no cap on Grad Plus loans, though. I do hope you do not see the $224,000 maximum, and that will be my goal at the end of the day, to get you to graduation without hitting that maximum and having to only rely or primarily rely on Graduate Plus loans. But in order to do that, I need your help. Now, let's say you don't want to utilize federal loans, and that's okay. You can utilize alternative or private loans. However, you should be aware that they do not qualify for any federal benefits, including repayment and deferment options. This is a credit-based loan and a cosigner is probably going to be required. Interest rates will vary. They may be fixed or variable, and in which case I will always recommend a fixed rate. I would not want you to take out a loan that's at a 5% interest rate now, but jumps to 18, 25, 30% a couple months later because of the economy going up and down like it usually does. So it's important to make sure you do your homework, and again, I strongly recommend a fixed rate. Always do your research, check your interest rates, check repayment options, and check deferment or hardship options. If you decide to go the alternative loan route, I'm going to recommend that you stick with just that and not have a mix of federal and private loans. Or you could just stick with federal loans, and that is okay as well. Next, I know you're quite a ways away from talking about this, but I do like to make sure I throw this out there for everybody to know that you do have repayment options. First, with student loans, you have fixed repayment plan options, which are the standard, extended, and graduated repayment plans, which span from 10 to 25 years. These are all based on your overall loan debt. You also have income-driven repayment plan options, and these are based on what your income is, not your overall loan debt. And that consists of the income contingent repayment, or ICR, income-based repayment, or IBR, and then pay as you earn, or pay. All of these are great options to utilize depending on what your goal is once you hit graduation. During your M4 year, you're going to get quite a bit of information from our office on how to best maximize the return on your investment in your education. I also want to touch on repayment assistance programs. I've included a link from the WMC to list quite a few different repayment assistance programs. It's not all inclusive, but it's a great list. These programs can offer tuition assistance while in school, repayment assistance after graduation, living stipends, but please understand that they'll all likely require a service requirement. Now, this can be a great way to reduce your overall loan debt and minimize it, if not, go to school for free. Highly recommend considering this path and looking into it in order, again, to reduce your overall loan debt. Now, I want to talk about some different forgiveness program options. The first is my favorite, Public Service Loan Forgiveness, or PSLF. You can find more information about it on studentaid.gov. However, how the program works is that you make 120 total qualifying payments, or 10 years worth if you make them consecutively. In order for each payment to be considered qualifying, you must be on a qualifying repayment plan, such as pay or IBR, income-based repayment, or ICR, income contingent repayment, and you must work full-time for an eligible employer. You do all those things 120 times, and the remaining of loan debt you have can be forgiven tax-free. That can be huge. The other option, which is not my favorite, is the income-driven repayment plan term forgiveness. And you would be getting forgiveness of the remaining loan debt based on making payments on the IBR or the pay plans after 20 to 25 years. But any amount that is forgiven is taxable. I strongly do not recommend this plan and to go with these forgiveness plans. The only reason why is because I would rather you pay off your loans much quicker, because it will be cheaper for you in the long run versus waiting the 20 to 25 years. Also, if you've never paid any kind of money that hasn't been taxed yet on your tax return, it can hurt. So I strongly recommend, if you're going to shoot for public service or shoot for any kind of forgiveness, go ahead and go for public service loan forgiveness. Otherwise, I want you to be aggressive with your loans. There's a few ways to manage your debt. First, you want to limit the amount that you borrow and only take what you need. You'll hear that from me constantly, and there's a reason for that. It's because it really works. If you're able to, make interest payments on your loans if you're able to. And always be aware of what you are borrowing and keep records. Create an account with your loan servicer, but I always recommend maybe a yearly check-in to see what your overall loan debt and what repayment might look like. Our office is here to help you with that. Again, it's not there to scare you, but you should be aware of what everything looks like while you work your way through medical school. Always budget your personal expenses to reduce the amount of loans you're borrowing. Seek out scholarships, assistantships, and programs that offer tuition assistance. And lastly, factor in out-of-state, out-school costs. I'm going to really recommend that you apply for in-state residency as soon as possible if you are considered to be an out-of-state student, as it will save you a lot of money, just like we saw on the cost of attendance a few slides ago. I will also recommend you applying for scholarships every single year. These scholarships tend to open up at the end of the year for the following year. So for example, I would be expecting for scholarships to start opening up late this fall semester, fall 2025, for the 2026-27 school year. I've included the link to the MD scholarships, but also different search engines here that you can utilize and look for outside scholarships. You can also check with organizations you belong to, banks and credit unions, professional associations, and even employers if that works for you. Again, I strongly recommend considering applying for scholarships every single year. If you were to apply for scholarships and you took 2 hours every year to do it, and you received a $2,000 scholarship, in theory, you essentially made $1,000 an hour. So it's important to take the time to be able to do this. Just because you may not get a scholarship one year does not mean you won't get one the following year. I've also included the University Scholarship Search Guide. On here, for the UToledo scholarship, it's one general application. Then search committees can review all of the applications. Typically, the applications are available December 1st through about March 1st, but this is subject to change, so it's important to read your emails. Scholarships can be awarded anytime between June and October, but most of them are awarded during the summer months. When you use that search engine for scholarships, here are a couple examples of different scholarships that will likely pop up for you. The first is the College of Medicine New Student Scholarship Application and the David Hamilton Ryerson Memorial Scholarship. These scholarships may require a minimum of 3 recommendation letters, so it's important that you make sure you read all of the requirements for each application for scholarships. Next, let's talk about in-state residency. I'm going to be honest with you in the fact that I am not an expert in in-state residency and I will not be a good contact for this, but I can share some basic information about it to get you started. First, I've included a link to the registrar's office and one of their web pages that explains what makes a student eligible to apply for in-state residency. Ohio in-state residency is first decided during the admissions application process, and students who are determined to be non-residents of Ohio are required to pay the out-of-state tuition surcharge. In order to be reclassified as an Ohio resident to pay in-state tuition, you must apply for in-state residency, as based on the residency rule of the Ohio Revised Code. It is a bit of a process, but it will save you a lot of money, so it's absolutely worth it. I recommend talking to HSE Student Services Center, and they would be able to help you prepare what you might need to do between now and when you apply to ensure you are ready as soon as possible to request the in-state residency. I also want to make sure I include some financial literacy resources. The WMC is a wonderful website that has a lot of resources with the first team. Financial Wellness for the University of Toledo also has a great team in which they're able to sit down with you and work on how to make a budget. They work with students who often rely on refunds in order to pay for their living expenses. They are a great resource. They can meet with you in person or virtually or even over the phone. I've included the link to their page on this, and I encourage you to make an appointment with them. I've also included a link to the Financial Wellness Program with the WMC, and there's even some free webinars on there. I will try to send out emails of any webinars that are coming up from the WMC first team that might be helpful for you while you are in medical school. I encourage you to watch them live. However, they are typically recorded in case you're not able to make it. The last thing I want to touch on before we go to the to-do list is your credit score. This is very important. So you are entitled to one free credit report from each of the 3 credit bureaus once per year. You can do that through annualcreditreport.com. Managing your credit will ensure you have access to loans such as the Graduate Plus loan or a private loan if necessary. Building your credit while in school will make it easier to qualify for large purchases such as buying a home or a car. It takes time to build your credit, but it does not take time at all to ruin it. Making on-time payments each month on your debt will help increase your credit score. I have a lot of M4, so these are the students who are graduating here in the next month that have worked really hard to build their credit while they are in school. So now that they know where they have matched at, they're now able to successfully buy their own home where they matched in residency. So it is important that you do your best to build your credit. I am here to help you, as well as our financial wellness team here at the University of Toledo, to help you do this and answer any questions that you may have. Lastly, let's talk about all the to-do items that you need to do and the timeline for them. First, if you haven't already, complete your 2025-26 FAFSA as soon as possible, and you can do that through studentaid.gov. Once you do that, you will receive an email notification from the Office of Student Financial Aid with your loan offer. You can accept or decline your loans on the MyUT portal in your financial aid dashboard by early mid-July. Determine if you need to borrow the Grad Plus loan. Grad Plus loans are available again through studentaid.gov, but you can always wait until the fall bill comes out in order to help figure out how much you need to borrow. If you're not sure, email us and we'll be happy to help math that out for you. Next, your fall tuition bill will likely be available about July 25, often early July 2025. Your fall loan disbursement is scheduled to occur the first week of classes. It's important that you complete the Title IV authorization through your MyUT portal in order to ensure that your financial aid covers all of your eligible charges. If you're expecting a refund, set up direct deposit in your MyUT portal prior to the disbursement date. Refunds are generally issued within 2 to 3 days of disbursement. Budget your refund from July through January. Your spring disbursement is likely going to be scheduled for early January 2026. You will then need to budget that spring refund from January through July 26. As NM2, you won't be starting your first summer course until about July 2026. So it's important to not just budget for the short term, but the long term as well. Now, I know this was a lot of information, so I encourage you to reach out to us. Again, my name is Maura Connor. You can reach out to our team at hscfinaid@utoledo.edu. When it comes to financial aid, none of this is common sense. There really are no bad questions, so please don't hesitate to reach out to us. I look forward to meeting all of you Rockets on orientation and hope you have a wonderful summer until then. Take care and see you soon.